Hello and welcome to Misaal. My name is Zahed and I'm your host. On this podcast, I talk candidly with the most innovative minds working towards building a better startup economy in Pakistan. In this episode of the Misal podcast, I invite you to listen in on my conversation with Ahmar Awan. He's the general manager at Truckit, a freight marketplace startup. He shares insights from his time at multiple venture funded startups, the day to day challenges of being a general manager, and what he looks for when hiring. Let's listen in. Welcome, Ahmar, to Misal podcast. Thanks for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
So I saw your saw you on LinkedIn, and I felt like your resume was very impressive. Like you were worked at multiple venture funded startups. So I have spoken to a lot of founders and investors, but I've never had an experience or perspective from someone who's worked at multiple venture funded startups. So I just thought like maybe you would be a perfect person to talk about how it's like working at a startup, and so you could just give a little background about your journey, starting from like, you were at Kareem, then you were at Mocha Online, then you were at Dawai, and now you're at Truckitin. So just talk about your journey so far and like how does it feel to be a startup employee?
So Zahid, when I started back in 2012, when I joined Food Panda, it was a time when Pakistan
Yeah.
didn't even have 3G technology. So we were operating with
Yeah.
2G, and Food Panda and Draz.pk basically were the first two ventures by Rocket Internet in Pakistan. And then after that, they launched series
Okay.
of ventures, which includes Lamudi, Kemu, Karmudi, and multiple Joago.
Yes.
There were, and I think that was the time when the startup culture came in Pakistan. Actually, it is from, we must appreciate Rocket Internet for developing that culture in Pakistan. And I still
Yeah.
remember I was a fresh graduate from Nust University, and by the time, I had multiple offers from multinational companies. And when I opted for Food Panda, people were laughing at me. Even my colleagues, my class fellows, my teachers were used to call me Panda Panda, and that was like a fun for them. How startup things work. Even I was not sure about my journey. That at that time it was Aminur Rahman and it
Yeah.
was Alina who headed as well. So she was the one who interviewed me, and then I met Amin, and then I met a couple of guys from Germany as well, and they told me about the whole startup world, how it is operating, how they are planning to change the whole uh, e-commerce industry in
Yeah.
Pakistan that people were not even well aware about. So that was the vision, and that was the belief system that I opted for, thinking
Yeah.
that because I wanted to do something. I mean, there are two ways for you, right? The one way is the easy way, that you opt for multinational companies and you just secure your lifelong journey, right? And the other option which people choose is
Okay.
basically go abroad. So go to Dubai, go to some other country, get
Yeah.
immigrated. But I believe that I was privileged one, that I came from a very humble rural background. I got a scholarship, I went
Yeah.
to NAS, and I thought, when I am going to the industry, I am going in the professional world, I will do something which can change the lives of people, life of multiple millions of people, right? Those who are not privileged like us, those who do not have the uh, uh, don't have the financial resources to go to these higher universities, or maybe don't have financial resources to get those convenience which
Yeah.
only elite class of Pakistan enjoys. So that was the mission, and that was the vision which due to which I opted for startup world.
Okay, so how's it been so far? So you went from Food Panda to Kareem. So how was that transition? Because Kareem, Food Panda is mostly like an European operation. So Kareem was mostly a Middle Eastern operation. So were there any differences in culture and like how things were done?
When I went to Cream, that was the time when startup culture has already grown a little bit in Pakistan. Although it
Okay.
was not that much, I
Yeah.
think Cream was also founded back in 2012, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was the time when I was working in Pakistan. After, I mean, when I was in Food Panda, the market in Pakistan was literally not aware about the whole startup ecosystem,
Yeah.
not even about the e-commerce. Even the well-educated people, even the professors at the universities, they were not sure that what this is whole about, because there was no trend, there was no culture, there was
Yeah.
no precedent set by other local startups. That was the time when Zameen was launching. That was the time when Pathwheels local startups also started working in operating in Pakistan after looking at Rocket Internet. So the difference in culture was at Food Panda we were at a very experimental stage. We were very new. We had challenges from the market as well as from the demand side.
Yeah.
While when it came to Cream, at Cream, I mean, after I joined Cream back in 2017, so there is a
Right.
5 years of gap from 2012 to 17. By that time, people were aware about the startup ecosystem. People were aware about what e-commerce is all about, and we had the 3G technology available in Pakistan, so things were setting in pace. But I think the cultures both were excellent cultures. Both cultures have grown people. Both cultures have built, have both cultures have contributed a lot of Food Panda as well as Cream to the ecosystem of Pakistan.
Yeah.
Even the people who helped Kareem grow in Pakistan were from Food Panda. For example, Talan Sari, who is currently co-founder at Retailo Technologies,
Yeah.
he joined Kareem as the director operations from the very beginning, and he was the one who basically we both joined Food Panda back in 2012 in the same month of December. He was operations manager for Karachi, and I was business development manager in Islamabad and Rawalpindi. And later on, Talha led the Food Panda as well. So I
Yeah.
think that experiences from Food Panda helped us to operate in Kareem.
So once you left Kareem, you joined another startup, Mocha Online. So how was that transition? Because Kareem, of course, was a little bit on. It was a unicorn and everything, and so you went from like a really well-funded, known brand name startup to a very smaller startup. So how was that transition? Like, how was your experience working with Mocha Online?
So after first of all, after leaving Food Panda, I went to Dubai. I worked for a British company. It was basically Dynamic Soft. They have different Microsoft. They offer Microsoft solutions like Microsoft AX Dynamics technology and multiple other like features.
Okay.
So I just went abroad to have that kind of international exposure to work with some global companies, in a very global competitive environment. And then I came back and I joined Cream. It was I was in Dubai when I was offered by Cream, but as far as Mocha Online is concerned, I think, see, when you're working at startups, the only thing which keeps you motivated is you are learning every day. You're learning something new. You
Yeah.
know, you have this inside you that you challenge yourself every day.
Yeah.
You want to change things. So I think by the time I left Cream, I had this feeling that mashallah Cream has grown so big now, and there are so many people who can do the same job which we used to do, right?
Yeah.
So the value addition which I think uh, I could make was less at that point in time as compared to when I was when I joined Cream,
Yeah.
because we had developed it. It was all about economies of scale,
Yeah.
right? So that was the time when I thought, now I should some other startup who is a baby right now need me,
Yeah.
and need my experience, and need my I mean whatever I have learned during the previous 7 to 8 years. And that was the time, that was the motivation to join Mocha Online. It was also by Mustafa, who is recently, he is now, although Mocha got closed unfortunately because of COVID, but Mustafa is a true entrepreneur, and he has started as CEO and co-founder of Easy Fresh Technologies.
Okay.
So at Mocha, another reason for joining Mocha was basically its vision of empowering poor, rather I would call it the most deprived, females in Pakistan.
Right.
Those who don't have any financial resources, those who don't get that highly paid, those maids who are working at our homes, day and night,
Yeah.
12 hours, 14 hours, 18 hours, but they difficultly they are able to survive. So when I met Mustafa, and he told me that he came from back from Stanford to Pakistan, and his vision of basically revamping this whole segment of society which was extremely deprived, and
Yeah.
who does not even have basic needs. So that
Yeah.
was the vision and mission and motivation of joining Food Mocha Online. I worked with them for almost 5 to 6 months, but it was great learning experience. I went to these slums of Lahore, in the vicinity areas of Lahore, and in Rawalpindi and Islamabad. I think if I would not have joined Mocha Online, I would never have gone to those areas.
Yeah.
I would never have met those poor people, and I would never have seen the kind of conditions in which those people are living in.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot even imagine. It does not even look like a third world country, I mean, they are so deprived of very basic human necessities, and some of them are located in the vicinity of elite class areas, like I'm in defense. So there are some slums in the vicinity area of defense, you know
Yeah.
so the people in defense living, there is only one boundary line, there is only one wall. So on the one
Right.
side of the wall is the highly privileged class of Pakistan.
Yeah.
On the other side of the wall, the people, they cannot even eat twice a day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that is what we wanted to change, and that was the motivation of joining Mocha Online.
No, I felt very bad when I first heard about Maka Online shutting down because I knew what the kind of work they were doing, and I knew the founder that he was working really hard, and like everyone had good things to say about him. So I've heard a lot of good things, and it's very unfortunate that they closed down. So yeah, totally understand your sentiment there. So after Maka Online, you went on to Davai, and then now you're at Truck It In. So we can skip Davai. We can talk about more Truck It In because Truck It In, I don't have much information about like the industry, so I would love to learn more about like the industry in general, and as well as like you, what are your day-to-day duties like? What do you do? What is your role? Like, how do you start your day and how do you end your day? Like, what does it mean to be a general manager at like a fast-growing startup?
So again, the motivation is same, like at Mocha Online, like at Kareem, like at Food Panda. I mean, okay, at Kareem there were people who were, they had taxes, but it was very difficult for them to earn a very good living, right? They
Yeah.
used to work day and night without technology. They don't had that much of customers. So at the end of the day, it was, they were minimally getting their earnings. While on the other hand, Prakitin is the same thing, I think, but it's different in a way that it's a very bigger market than Kareem. Because the pool of supply. I mean, these are the people who are running this country's
Right.
economy.
Yeah.
These are the people who are on the roads all the way, day and night.
Yeah.
So they are meeting their families after months and months. They are eating outside, day and night. They don't have even basic necessities. They are even sleeping on their trucks and on their containers.
Yeah.
So again, the motivation behind joining Truckitin was same, which was for Kareem or for Mocha Online, to revamp, to rechange this industry so that not only it contributes towards the economy of Pakistan, but also to uplift the living standard of these people who are actually the backbone of this economy.
Yeah.
As far as my duties are concerned, I was the first one who joined Truckitin in Lahore as the founding team member. Although Truckitin has started 6 months back, but it has not been launched in Lahore by the time I joined.
Okay.
It was only operating in Karachi by that time and in Islamabad. And so Sarmad, who was my fellow at Kareem, I used to work in Lahore. He used to work in Islamabad back in those days. So we were very good friends, and even the rest of two co-founders, they were also my colleagues at Kareem.
Okay.
So they called me up and they told me the whole vision and mission of the company. So I opted for this journey. As general manager, you have multiple duties. It's a 3D view when you look at my day to day duties at Rakuten. Then we have to look at major problems, major hurdles. Every day you have different hurdles. We have cash clients, then we have credit clients. There are some clients who are contractual, some clients who are who provide a spot demand. So to big cities for import export movements, and short haul businesses, basically cities to within the city, if logistical needs of different companies. For example, we are providing short haul services to different startups like Jugnu, like Dastagir, Bazaar, Airlift. All these startups are our business partners. We are the one who are providing logistical services to all these startups. So it's a very it's a very hectic and busy day, and every day we are facing new challenges. Obviously, our product is
Okay.
in the MVP stage, so it's not rolled out in the market yet. It's in internal adoptions from the market. How to incorporate that knowledge into the product, right?
Yeah.
So that when the product is rolled out, it has all the base, requirements and features which our partners require, which our supply partners require, which our demand partners require. So I mean, we are it's a very rapid pace. We are learning a lot of things every day. Every day is a challenging day.
So talk about like some challenge that you recently had. Just to give an example, like what kind of challenges you're talking about, like every single day, like if you had to face.
So yeah, so for example, when we launched short haul business in Lahore, I mean, it was very difficult to to gather these whole Suzuki pickups. You call them LTV vehicles, right?
Yeah.
So basically, even I mean, there are multiple hotspots or points where these group of people are standing, on one side of the road where they have these LTVs. But when you will approach them and you ask them to work with us, they have that traditional kind of mindset which we used to face at Kareem.
Yeah.
I mean, during early days of Kareem, that was the whole traditional system, right?
Yeah.
That you go to some point, there are 6 7 cars parked, and you negotiate with them for a rate, and then they will take you somewhere from point A to point B. So same is the case in this LTV model. If you approach those people and you tell them that join us, this is our application. You need to register on it. We'll provide you, sufficient orders on daily basis. You will get better, earnings. They won't agree to you. They don't understand it, or maybe they consider this is some sort of fraud, right? And maybe we will just use them for 1 month and then we won't pay them.
Yeah.
So that kind of mental to break that kind of mental barriers. So initially what we
Yeah.
did, we brought on board different vendors, and through vendors we were operating this model. But then what happened is, basically, even these vendors, they start exploiting the company on one hand, and then they start exploiting these people who are working with them as partners on the other hand. They are getting payments from us, but they are not paying them in full,
Okay.
you know so at the end of the day, those individual people who are running their households based on their vehicle earnings, they will come to us and they will say, see, I earned 50,000 rupees and you only gave me 35,000 rupees. Where is my 15,000 rupees? But on the other hand, actually, we have paid them 50,000 rupees, but that 15,000 rupees is basically
Yeah.
what that vendor kept in his own pocket, rather than shifting it to the actual
Yes.
person who owned that money. So that was a big challenge. How to I mean, they had these vendors were gaining this bargaining power, high bargaining power, just because they had those supply pockets in their pocket. So that was a big challenge, and we have overcome that challenge by building our own individual fleet. Now we have onboarded people on our own platform. There is no vendor in between. So we are directly paying them through their
Okay.
Jazz Cash, Easy Pesa,
Okay.
because most of these people don't have bank accounts. So that is another challenge. You know, so convincing them to open a bank account.
Right.
Just
Right.
imagine,
Yeah.
during this
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
in this era, I mean, at this point in time, people in 90%, maybe 90%, if I'm not exaggerating, people in Pakistan don't have bank accounts. So even that is a challenge. Although there are multiple fintech
Okay.
startups coming in,
Okay.
and multiple telcos also operating in this space, and obviously it is improving on day to day basis. But these are the basic level of challenges which developed countries don't have to face. So startups, running a startup in a developed country and then running a startup in a developing
Right.
country is a totally different ball game.
What you're talking about probably requires a lot of team members, right? So you probably have a team that you hire and you train and to do certain things. So how big is your team and how many people are we talking about here?
So right now, if we talk about Lahore, we have more than across Pakistan we have more than 200 people, right?
Oh
But
wow.
if we
Okay.
only look at Lahore, only in Lahore we have more than 30 people.
Okay.
So we have two departments. We have demand side, and then we have supply side, and within supply side we have supply of ops, supply operations, and then we have supply fulfillment. Then we have supply facilitation team. You know, so there are multiple teams within the supply side, and then on the demand side there is one business development team, and there is key accounts management team. Then there is customer success team. So there are multiple people who are assigned different roles within the demand team. So both
Yeah.
teams are operating in strong collaboration with each other. So the end goal is basically highest utilization and best customer experience.
Right, right. Yeah.
So because we get so many orders, and if we start missing orders, obviously it will cause customer churn, lack of, bad experience from the customer side. On the other hand, if we have supply partners and if we are not giving them ample demand, obviously they will lose interest in our in our company and in us. So we have to make sure from both ends that the supply utilization is at its peak level. So right now, since the product is at MVP level, so we are doing it manually. But
Okay.
obviously, the whole purpose of bringing in truck it in this entire logistics space is to, revamp this whole industry through technology. So there
Mhm.
will be a time when we have actually started bringing people on our portal, on our application, from supply side as well as from demand side. We are sharing our demand portal with our partners, existing portfolio of clients, and then we are sharing our truck app, basically supply app, with the truckers, and we are incentivizing them to start using it, because from that platform, from that portal and application, through that we will be actually doing the actual biddings as well as the utilization through technology.
So one question I had while you're talking about all these, so when it comes to startups, it's very important to hire the right people, because initially if you hire the right people, then the team that comes after it will be, exactly the same way you hired the initial first, people who believed in the mission, who knew where the startup was going. So what do you look for when hiring someone for your team? Like, is there something that you are really looking for apart from, of course, the basic, the education and experience? Like, is there something that you look for when hiring for a startup employee? Because startup employee is very different than, like, traditional MNC employee. So what do you look for?
So we look for two, three things.
Yeah.
First of all, the first question I will be asking anyone: what is the purpose of joining this? I mean, why do you want to opt for a startup? And do you
Yeah.
actually know what is the difference between a company and a startup? I mean,
Hmm.
we are diving deep into their mind. We are asking such questions just to know what is the motivation behind. You know, is the
Okay. Yeah.
motivation only? I mean, is the financial gain is the only motivation, or is it? I mean, do they are only opting for this job just for a job, or do they have passion? Do they have fire? I mean, you can't work in a startup if you don't have that kind of fire. You will get burned within a week or maybe within a
Yeah.
month,
Yeah.
and that is why this is what we have learned over, after working at multiple startups at senior most positions, hiring multiple people. We have faced this, that people churn because when they startup is every day is a new challenge, right? Your roles are not that clearly assigned. It's not that, and there are not too many people to do too many things, right? We are only few people doing too many things.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to 9 to 5 culture, 9 to 5 in startups, startup is like a baby. You have to take care of it like a baby. I mean, if your baby is born and you are thinking that you will treat that baby like 18 years old, adult
Yeah.
guy, that is totally different.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's true.
a baby might wake you up at 2 a.m. Crying. So that's what startup is actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to think from that perspective, that the person who is coming on board has that kind of alignment. He also believes in your vision. He also believes in your mission, and he has that kind of fire inside him, which will keep burning, and which will help us to create impact as a team.
So far, like, whenever you are hiring, like, I just want to understand, like, sometimes, of course, when people hear about startups, they'll ask you like some basic questions about the startup, or how the compensation works, or, like, what happens if the startup cannot raise more money in the future. It's like, what kind of questions do you face from, like, employees who, or candidates who have never worked for a
So
startup
the
before?
biggest challenge is actually, Zahid, when I am interviewing most of people, even those who have experience, even those who have worked at MNCs, even they are not aware about the whole startup dynamics. They are not aware about what
Okay.
equity means. They are not aware about what stock options means. They have never seen any. They are not aware
Okay.
how the whole startup is designed. They are not. We have to tell them what exits
Right.
mean, what IPO mean. How what how stock
Okay.
options. If we are giving them equity and they are not well aware about the value of that equity, so it's a waste for them until and unless they'll get some funds
Okay.
when the company do a successful exit or IPO, and they get some funds in their bank account, they won't realize the value of that equity, right? And how many startups have
Right.
done
Yeah.
successful exits in Pakistan? I mean, you can name it. It's just cream, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so only those who have worked at Cream and had the equity had have actually gained some funds in their bank accounts. So these are the people who actually know that this is real. But
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
give that conviction to them that one day. So what I tell people when I'm hiring them, obviously startups cannot pay like MNCs, right? MNCs have big pockets and they can obviously pay you high. But on
Yeah.
the other hand,
Yeah.
they are not giving you. So what we are telling people, so when most of the people from MNCs, I mean, young students, they are quite indifferent. I mean, most of the young students, if I
Right.
am
Yeah.
offering them I mean, for example, let's suppose if a fresh, graduate is coming from LAMS or NAS from a very prestigious institution, and I am offering him 60, 70,000, an MNC will be offering him for the
Okay.
same role or at the same stage, maybe 100,000 or maybe 90,000. The gap is not that big. So it is easy to convince them. And those fresh graduates, 3 years, people know about startups. Even, we have multiple incubation centers, acceleration centers. We have NIC, we have Plan 9, we have multiple such institutions which are actually which are
Okay.
actually building that kind of culture. He is coming from some
Yeah.
MNC. So it is very difficult to tell that person, if you are offering him, for example, he was getting 200K. You talking about? So I was getting this much from that company, and now I'm coming to this, startup who is. I mean, for them, the startup is not something lucrative. They think that this is a risky business, right?
Yeah.
Their job was their job was secure. They had that privilege of brand name with them. I'm working at XYZ multinational company, so that privilege is also gone. So high salary is gone, that privilege is gone. Maybe there were multiple other perks and benefits, like maybe they were having a car,
Yeah.
maybe they were getting some other
Yeah.
facilities that those are also gone. So what's the attraction then? Even if you are not paying them high salary, so the only attraction which we
Yeah. It
can
is. It
offer
is
them is
risky.
this stock options and equity, and make them believe that one day this will be a unicorn company.
Yeah.
But obviously it's not. It's very difficult for them to believe, and they think that we are exaggerating and we are just
Yeah.
then we have to give them our own examples. So what I tell them, keep these. So I tell them, do you believe in me? Do you think that, look at my profile, do
Mhm.
you think that whatever I am
Yeah.
saying is true? And if that person, I mean, obviously, if that person trusts me, then I'll tell him, look, man, we are giving you this much of salary, just and if you get even double of this salary at the end of the month, you
Yeah.
won't have much money. So I tell them, this equity which we are giving you for next 4 years with 1 year cliff, obviously. So think of it as your
Yeah. Yeah.
savings.
Yeah.
So maybe after 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, oh, okay, for next 4 or 5 years, you won't get anything out of it. So rest assured, I am telling you this today so that you don't have any wrong expectations from the very start.
Startups, I mean, in general, are high risk, high reward, and depending on when you join a startup, like you can sometimes maybe tell like, if you join a startup really late, you kind of know like, okay, it's already successful, in the sense that like it's been around for quite some time, it has no problem raising money, so there's more, there's more confidence there. But if you start really early on, that's where the high risk, comes and high reward comes. But of course, when you join early on, you get a lot more equity than you join later on. With time, the culture will change, and I think a lot of activity that's happened in 2021 tells us that the culture is changing, and like more and more people are coming into the ecosystem, and the more they come into the ecosystem, they'll go and tell other people, and I think it's that's how it's going to spread. So it's going to spread, and it's been spreading, and I think it's going to keep spreading.
Absolutely,
So
100%. Because see, now the used to face some sort of uh, defenses from their families as well. So every family. So in Pakistan, if most of the people are from middle class, right? Either they are upper middle class or
yeah.
middle class, and that when they will retire and they will be out of their jobs, their children will be there. So
Yeah.
these children who are actually going to be the source of income for the household, when they are opting for
Yeah.
such startups, so obviously it's not just the person who is taking the risk, it's actually the family who's taking the risk.
Right, right, right. Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your insights, and thank you for being on the Misal podcast. It was lovely having you.
Thank you very much, Zahad. It was pleasure meeting you, virtually, and it was a great learning experience for me as well. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Misaal podcast. I hope you enjoyed the podcast and will thank me by writing a review or sharing it on social media. Make sure you follow and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks again. See you soon.